My name is Emery, and I have two dear daughters. My eldest daughter's name is Sophia. Tomorrow Sophia is getting married, and it's making me reflect on the past. When I was a child, I lived in a modest town that wasn't particularly affluent but had everything we needed. My family consisted of my parents, my older brother who was 3 years my senior, and myself. My brother was always kind to me. When I was small, he would always play with me. I adored my brother so much that I would tag along when he hung out with his friends. He never showed any signs of annoyance and always played with me with a smile. However, when my brother turned 20, he suddenly left home and we lost contact for a while. He left home because he eloped with his girlfriend who was 5 years older than him and a university student. They came to our home to break the news that she was pregnant and they were planning to marry. My father, a man who cared deeply about appearances and societal norms, opposed this fiercely. He said things like,
"I won't allow you to marry until you graduate from university,
and
I'll give you money, so you two need to break up."
as a middle school student at the time, I thought my father's way of saying things was harsh. But I was too young to understand marriage or pregnancy, and so I couldn't stand up for my beloved brother. In the end, my brother packed his belongings secretly and left, and we lost contact completely. Despite being family, we didn't even know his phone number or address. It was sudden, and just like that, my brother and I became strangers. I was lonely and regretful, thinking, if I had stood up for my brother back then, maybe we wouldn't have been separated like this. However, as time passed, those feelings gradually faded away. Then, in my late 20s, when I was married and expecting a child of my own, I unexpectedly ran into my brother again. It was a Sunday afternoon. My husband and I were spending a lazy day in our living room when the doorbell rang. Caring for me in my pregnant state, my husband went ahead to answer it. With a surprised look, he turned to me and said,
"There's someone here claiming to be your brother."
"What? I only have one brother, but it couldn't possibly be him. I hadn't seen him in over a decade. I didn't even know if he was alive. I had tried my best to find him to invite him to my wedding the previous year, but I was unsuccessful." I skeptically peered into the intercom monitor, and tears unexpectedly filled my eyes. My brother. The person in the video was a bit thinner than before, but without a doubt, it was my brother. I immediately rushed to the entrance and opened the door with force. There stood my brother, fully grown, and a girl who looked to be in middle school. I didn't recognize the girl, but I immediately thought it must be my brother's daughter.
"Emery, it's been a while. Have you been well?"
He said with a smile, just like the ones he used to give me, though he looked somehow tired. "I'm fine. What have you been doing all this time? I've been looking for you. You look tired, are you okay?" Instead of answering my questions, my brother said,
"This is Sophia, my daughter."
He gently pushed the girl standing a step behind him towards me. She nodded her head shyly. She was a beautiful girl with large, sharp eyes, reminding me of a cat. She didn't look much like my brother, who has drooping and narrow eyes. I thought she must resemble her beautiful mother. "Nice to meet you. I'm Emery, your dad's sister." "Nice to meet you, Sophia." I invited them into the house, but my brother responded,
No, I'm fine here.
I was confused as to why he was already leaving when he had just arrived. I had so many things I wanted to ask and tell him. As I was about to say this, my brother said,
I'm counting on you for Sophia.
and quickly left. Wait, what? I was so taken aback that I couldn't comprehend what just happened. By the time I had collected myself and ran out the door to chase after him, he was nowhere in sight. What just happened? I don't understand. I turned around to find Sophia standing alone behind me. As I turned to her, puzzled and wondering what to do, she muttered,
Please take care of me.
I asked Sophia for my brother's contact information and home address, but all she said was that she didn't know. I tried calling my parents' house just in case, but they told me they had not had any contact with my brother, and then hung up. My husband and I were puzzled when Sophia, our unexpected guest, quietly confessed.
I was abandoned by my parents.
Sophia arrived at our home with nothing more than a large Boston bag. When I peeked inside, I found a few pieces of clothing, underwear, a towel, and a toothbrush. Her belongings resembled those of a child ready for a sleepover. For the moment, I believed her older brother would come back for her, and so we began living with Sophia. A month passed, but he never returned. My husband, who had always loved children, took it in stride. He even joked that it was
like a rehearsal for raising our own child.
But we found it hard to believe that my kind brother would abandon her. There must have been some circumstances, I believed, considering his tired look the last time we saw him. Living with Sophia was a bit strange at first, but we gradually began to feel like she was our little sister, despite our age difference. Sophia wasn't much of a talker, but she was very polite and considerate, especially towards me, who was pregnant. However, her true feelings towards her parents occasionally slipped out. When I offered to make her a lunchbox for her final field trip in elementary school, she told me,
My mother hasn't made me a lunchbox in years.
And when I asked her about her father, she replied,
My father wishes I didn't exist.
After asking Sophia why, she remained silent and didn't say anything more. While part of me wanted to believe in my brother, seeing her vulnerable like that made me worry that something might be wrong. 6 months had passed, but there was no word from my brother. Has my brother turned into someone who mistreats children? I didn't want to believe it, but if Sophia was hurting, I resolved to do everything I could to shower her with love. My husband and I made efforts, albeit awkwardly, to spend enjoyable time with Sophia. When Sophia visited again, I was already in the early stages of pregnancy, and my belly had grown significantly, with the due date just a month away. After my 9-month prenatal checkup, I got on a bus to head home. It was full, so I had to stand. Just as I was reaching for the strap, a man offered me his seat. When I looked up to thank him, I gasped, "Brother." I never expected to run into him here. Despite his surprise, he quickly composed himself, his eyebrows forming an apologetic frown. "We need to talk about Sophia," I thought, grabbing his arm and not letting go. We got off at the next stop, and I took him to a restaurant.
"Emery, you're pregnant,"
he said, sinking into his seat with a resigned look on his face. I told him I was 9 months along and due next month.
"Is it a boy or a girl?"
he asked, to which I replied, "Probably a girl."
I'm sorry for causing you trouble during this time.
he said, looking genuinely remorseful. I'm okay, but what about Sophia? What's going on? I asked, finally voicing the question that had been on my mind. He seemed lost in thought and didn't answer for a while. Even if you left her with us, you should have at least told us why. I have the right to know. I'll accept anything, I told him. Finally, he began to open his mouth to speak.
Didn't you think we don't look alike, me and Sophia?
My older brother asked me, catching me off guard. I wanted to deny it, but that was exactly what I thought when I first met Sophia. As I hesitated to respond, my brother continued.
We don't look alike. I thought the same way, but well, we're of different genders, so I just assumed that's how it would be,
he said, trying to make it seem like it wasn't a big deal. But I had a feeling that something serious was coming.
But as she grew older, the differences between us became more apparent. So, I went and had a DNA test done between me and Sophia,
he said, and for that brief moment until the next words, time seemed to stretch endlessly.
The results came in, and it turns out Sophia and I aren't related,
he said. I imagined myself in his shoes, and it felt incredibly painful and overwhelming. To think that someone believed they were their child for so long, only to find out there was no biological connection. My brother continued.
I found out about it 2 years ago. I immediately confronted my wife, hoping for an explanation. Instead of apologizing, she brazenly admitted that Sophia was from a previous relationship, but the biological father refused to acknowledge her. So, she used me, who was young and naive back then, to avoid the struggles of being a single mother.
How awful. A fierce anger toward his wife boiled within me. I vividly remembered the earnest gaze my brother had when he told our parents that he wanted to marry his girlfriend because he genuinely loved her. To think she crushed my brother's heartfelt feelings.
Since then, her attitude changed, and she started cheating with other men, gambling, all the while hiding it from me, which she was already doing before. She stopped taking care of Sophia properly, and from around last year, she stopped coming home altogether.
My brother explained that they were finally going through with a divorce. Hearing how he had been deceived and betrayed by the person he trusted and loved, my heart ached for him. But even so, that doesn't have anything to do with Sophia, right? Just because you're going through a tough time doesn't give you the right to hurt Sophia, I said, firmly speaking up to my brother for the first time.
You're right,
he replied, sounding tearful.
For 12 years, we've spent time together, even if Sophia isn't biologically related to me. I love her, and blood doesn't define family. I tried to believe that and make it work, but I think that feeling of being betrayed has been lingering, making it awkward between us. I guess Sophia sensed the change in me, and since around 6th grade, she stopped talking to me,
he said. I could empathize with both my brother's feelings and Sophia's feelings, and it felt like a painful whirlwind inside my chest. I didn't know what the right answer was, but I also imagined how lonely Sophia must have felt when her mother left and her father changed into someone else.
I didn't know what to do anymore, and then I happened to see you in town by chance. I felt bad, but I followed you and found your home. But at that moment, I hadn't planned on leaving Sophia with you. The day before I went to your house, I waited until Sophia fell asleep and had a discussion with my wife about the divorce. She said that raising a child is difficult, so she would give me custody. I had mixed feelings. I didn't want to be away from Sophia, but the anger over my wife's betrayal was stronger, so I blurted it out. She made the child with someone else, so take her away, she said.
I'm sure Sophia must have heard those words.
In the end, my wife left me and went away on her own. But Sophia told me that she didn't want to live with her father. Maybe she intended to be kind or express her true feelings. I don't know. I tried to tell myself that it would be just the two of us as father and daughter, but Sophia was adamant about not wanting to live with me.
That's when my brother thought of relying on me as the person to turn to. After listening to my brother's story, I couldn't help but shed tears as well. Considering Sophia's feelings, being manipulated by her parents, hurt without doing anything wrong, I used to think my brother was just terrible for leaving her without a word. But now, if I were in my brother's position, I couldn't confidently say I would suppress my emotions entirely, considering the child's feelings. With that realization, I couldn't blame my brother any further. At the same time, I made up my mind to do my best in the role I had now. All right, I'll do my best to love and raise Sophia as much as possible, I said. My brother looked surprised as he turned to me. As a couple, we'll pour our love as Sophia's mother and father, so she'll be fine. So, when the time comes and you've sorted out your feelings, you can convey your true feelings to Sophia. My words were neither hypocritical nor out of pity for Sophia. They came naturally from the heart. I wanted to be the bridge between my beloved older brother and Sophia, who surely loved her father deeply. 1 month later, I had gone through my first childbirth and named the baby Amelia. Sophia adored Amelia like a true little sister, and my husband and I loved Sophia as our own daughter. We had our fair share of arguments and conflicts, but the next day, everything would be back to normal. We continued to build this unique family. I accompanied my brother to our parents' house. My father, as usual, was red-faced and angry, saying,
"That's why I warned you."
My mother, on the other hand, broke down in tears when she saw my brother. After that, though not too frequently, we started spending New Year's and open holidays together as a family. Time passed, and it was the day of Sophia's wedding. She had turned 25. At the wedding, she wanted to write letters to her parents, which included me, my husband, and my brother. When Sophia was in high school, my brother came to my house to have a heart-to-heart conversation. With nothing hidden, both Sophia and my brother laid bare their feelings, and they laughed together like a real parent and child. I couldn't stop my tears as I watched them. During the ceremony, Sophia expressed her gratitude in a letter to her father. My brother was in tears. Seeing him like that, Sophia laughed and said,
Dad, you're crying so much. It's embarrassing.
Both my brother and I realized that even though we weren't biologically related to Sophia, our mutual love created a strong bond that transcended blood ties. Now, I still believe in that and cherish my precious family and the meaningful days we spent together.